Hey guys, as always, thanks for stopping by. The story of a man who had had enough with his local government. Yeah, let's talk about that. Today's episode is brought to you by Shall Not Comply over at shallnotcomply.com. Apparel for Patriots by Patriots. Back in stock. The 80s were rad. Ear Pro wraps. All the keychains are back in stock. From my cold dead hands, medium through 4XL, back in stock. And you guessed it, all the hats are back in stock. I'll put a link right down below over to shallnotcomply.com. Couple things, and then we're going to talk about a guy who would not comply, the Killdozer. Today's the day of his anniversary, and it's an important day, not just because of mythology, but also I think it's very appropriate for what's going on in today's society. First, all the thumbs up are always a huge, huge help. Yesterday, I asked y'all if y'all would just double check to see if you're still subscribed. Holy cow, I got up this morning and the flood of emails that came in overnight and then all of the comments as well, a bunch of y'all had been mysteriously and magically unsubscribed. I never really do that whole I'm complaining about YouTube thing. I don't. I love this platform. It's fantastic. I don't agree with a lot of their stances, but it works and it's been a great tool for me. So I don't complain a lot, but things have been fishy over the last couple weeks. I wanted y'all to see if you would check to see if you were still subscribed. Y'all did. And a lot of people were, of course, still subscribed, but there was some other fishy stuff. So thanks for checking on that. I'm watching. The algorithm is funky these days. Something is afoot. Again, I'm watching. Also, one more thing I want to mention to you is that I was wrong, or maybe the internet was wrong. It's part of it. When you wear a tinfoil hat, sometimes the tinfoil hat's right. Other times, you're just wearing a piece of aluminum foil on your head. Turns out the photo I showed you yesterday that had trickled in through social media of the Ventura Boulevard in LA, those rocks on the side of the road, those have been installed some time ago by the city. They were put into the concrete. It was part of a protective barrier, I believe around that case, around a synagogue, but they're around the city and other places. The internet was wrong on that one, and it happens from time to time. However, I still believe this entire situation is coordinated, well-funded, pretty sophisticated, and it has organization from very, very high up in D.C., certainly support from very high up in D.C. I hope all that kind of stuff is going to come out. The truth about that's going to come out. But this, what's going on right now, is coordinated, and it's a mess. We can all agree with that. All right, today is the anniversary of the Killdozer. Holy smokes, what a story that's very appropriate for this day and age. Anytime you deal with a local government, most anytime, it's going to be a nightmare. Governmental agencies are a monopoly. They have no motivation to be efficient or to do things well or to even care about their constituents. Governments are monopolies. And not all the time, but most of the time when you deal with a local government, you are going to have red tape and nightmare because you're dealing with people that are inequipped to lead. I was yesterday in my own city hall and I started getting nightmare feelings about some zoning issues that I've been through in recent past. So it's always a nightmare. There's some good cities and good town councils and that kind of stuff. But if any of you all have some age on you like you do, like I do, you're going to have some experiences dealing with governmental red tape. There was a guy named Marvin in Granby, Colorado back in 2004, and he had had enough. Now, there's two different storylines that you can chase. Wikipedia will say one thing, some of the mythological websites will say another, but regardless of which path you follow and what you believe about the Killdozer, Marvin, he'd had enough, and he got fed up. He had a muffler shop, the city right across, on his property, connected to his property. The city approved the zoning for a concrete plant. They built that, and he, Marvin, in his muffler shop was cut off. No access was able to come to his shop. He was cut off from city sewer. They wanted him to retap because they cut him off. Retap to the city lines. It was going to cost him $80,000 to get to the sewer lines. He had done some asking them again to appeal their zoning issues, and they refused. And it went on for some time. And you get into this whole web of stories I wrote down dealing with easements, sewer lines, zoning, and access. The road to his shop had been cut off. Now, he had sold some of that land to the concrete company, and he had been paid very well for it. But regardless of which path you follow, he'd had enough. And so the guy spent a year and a half outfitting a bulldozer and turning it into the Killdozer. We don't know for sure, but it looks like once he finally finished it, he went inside of it, he lowered the armor down onto him and was thus in his own tomb. He had no motivation or no plan to come out of that dozer once he went in. And he went on a rampage. And it's a pretty fascinating story. At this point, it has moved to mythological status. The story of the Killdozer, the ballad of the Killdozer. He went after the folks that had put him through those couple years of torment. Did not harm a soul other than himself. Some even say that he went out of his way specifically to cause no harm. But here's what he did do. He went after 13 buildings, took out City Hall or the Granby Town Hall, took out the mayor's house. Holy smokes, I think it was former mayor. 13 buildings in all. Took out the newspaper because the newspaper had done a bunch of hit pieces on him and had painted him in a negative light and would not give him a voice. He went after the newspaper, flattened it, finally went to a hardware store, and the Killdozer got stuck. Now, over 200 rounds of ammunition went into it to no avail. Why? 1 foot thick walls in the Killdozer in some places. It was multi-levels of armament, some steel, a lot of quickcrete, whole lot of quickcrete in this thing. This thing was massive. Inside he had ported gun ports, 50 caliber all the way down to a 22 long rifle. Not sure what he was going to do with that, but did have a 50 cal on there. Had gun ports. He had cameras. The cameras had 3-inch thick plastic protection. The police tried to take that out. They couldn't. At one point, one of the sheriff's officers got on top of it and rode the Killdozer like a bareback bronco. We're talking crazy stuff here. I'll get a little bit of footage in here for you, but it is a wild, wild time. Again, 200 rounds of ammunition, and then finally the Killdozer got stuck after he had done some significant damage to those that had harassed him for years, and he ended up taking his own life. So Marvin, in the end, he said this, quote, this is Marvin's words, "I was always willing to be reasonable until I had to be unreasonable. Sometimes reasonable men must do unreasonable things." It's a story for today. I don't condone violence. I'm not saying start building you a Killdozer. I think the tale is worth retelling today on the anniversary. June 4th is Killdozer Day. And again, I do think it's worth remembering Marvin and his Killdozer. What do you think? Leave a comment right down below. But to all governmental agencies, from my cold, dead hands, bye.